Hello, hello. Welcome back to today's session. Today we are going to look at the second part of the book called entitled not the book, the chapter is the same book, fundamentals of Christian education. But we are going to look at the chapter entitled Parental Responsibility. So that's gonna be part two, basically. Uh, Today is one. I guess today is not a good day actually. Today is Thursday, um, September 24th, 2020, and I think I'm gonna make a video as for tomorrow. Yes, I think so. I may be able to do that. So let us get right into it, and let's start with let's start with the video. Oh, there we go. And it starts as follow. The position of a woman in her family is more sacred than that of the king upon his throne. Her great work is to make her life an example such as she would wish her children to copy. And by precept as well as example, she is to store their minds with useful knowledge and lead them to self sacrificing labor for the good of others. The great stimulus to the toiling, burdened mother should be that every child who is trained aright and who has the inward adorning, the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, will shine in the courts of the Lord. And so, as we saw last time, many or most women nowadays don't like, I would say, well, they call it the patriarchy, you know. Let's put it that way. They call it, it's a patriarchal thing. But it's not actually a patriarchal thing. And I've talked to some women and I asked them, uh, if you were to work or to stay home and be a home mom, which one you would choose? And trust me, those women that went to schools, they graduated and they're working, making money. And most of them say, you know what, I'd rather stay home. But the reason why we hear so much about those quote unquote women that are pushing for women not so women like to stay. So there is a feminist ideology out there that tell women, um, you should do whatever you want to do and go out there and do it. And when the women say, you know what, I want to stay home and take care of children, then these same feminists they talk trash about those other women. So it's not really about empowering women. It's about you better have the same belief as I do. But what they don't see is they themselves would rather stay home than going to work because women don't really like to work in a corporate world. They'd rather stay home. And I'm not bashing on them, but it's just what it is. If you ask most women, they will tell you, I'd rather stay home. Now, the first thing about why they wanted to work was because of those men back then doing taking not taking care of their women, and that was bad. And that I agree with that they should do something to work so they can take care of themselves. But as of now, everything has changed. It's not about that anymore. It's just about complaining for anything. And women that choose to stay home, they get backlashed by the feminists, that so-called feminist empower women, which is not totally true. But even then, even then, um, even then, if women were to do the job that they were supposed to do, that God had made them to do, life would be easier. There will be not that much issues going on right now in the world. But you can't control people, and God Himself does not even control anyone. So I guess that's what it's gonna be like today. I entreat Christian mothers to realize their responsibility and to live not to please themselves, but to glorify God. And that is lacking. Christ Christ pleased not himself, but took upon him the form of a servant. He left the royal courts and clothed his divinity with humanity, that by his own example he might teach us how we may be exalted to the position of sons and daughters in the royal family, children of the heavenly King. But what are the conditions upon which we may obtain this great blessing? Come out from among them, and be ye separate, said the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. And I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughter. So people want to go to heaven, but I know they don't want to do the work. You know, basically people are like saying, you want to go up in the height, but you don't want to go on the climb. Climb. You have to take the stairs to go up, or at least I now consider. But think about nature. You have to go climb up the mountain to get to the top. You don't just fly up there. If you're talking about you want to do something good. But what we see now is most people they want both ways. They want the good result, but living a bad life. You know, and for us to be there, separate yourself from bad things. You know, do not touch on the unclean things. But we like to swim in the unclean things, but we want to go to heaven. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Christ humbled himself from the position of one equal with God to that of a servant. His home was in Nazareth, a place proverbial for its wickedness. Interesting. He was born in a place of wickedness, and yet he didn't sin. So don't bring that idea that you cannot get victory over sin, because you can. His parents were among the lowly poor. His trade was that of a carpenter, and he labored with his hands to do his part in sustaining the family. For 30 years he was subject to his parents. The life of Christ points out our duty to be diligent in labor and to provide for those entrusted to our care. So parents, um, actually, the moment you become a parent, you're no longer a master, you're a servant. Not you're a slave. Don't become slaves to your children. You need to lead your children, but you have to lead them in a servant type way. Meaning, not like, oh, my son or my daughter, what do you want to eat today? No, no, not that kind of servant. I'm talking about a servant leader. Okay, you are here for them. You want them to succeed. You want to help them, but do not succumb to them. Do not let them lead, in a sense. So that's the idea of a servant leader. In his lessons of instruction to his disciples, Jesus taught them that his kingdom is not a worldly kingdom where all are striving for the highest position, but he gave them lessons in humility and self-sacrifice for the good of others. His humility did not consist in a low estimate of his own character and qualifications, but in adapting himself to fallen humanity in order to raise them up with him to a higher life. Yet, how few see anything attractive in the humility of Christ. Worldlings are constantly striving to exalt themselves one above another, but Jesus, the Son of God, humbled himself in order to uplift men. The true disciple of Christ will follow his example. Would that the mothers of this generation might feel the sacredness of their mission, not trying to vie with their wealthy neighbors in appearance, but seeking to honor God by the faithful performance of duty. If right principles in regard to temperance were implanted in the youth who are to form and mold society, there would be little necessity for temperance crusades. Firmness of character, moral control would prevail, and in the strength of Jesus, the temptations of these last days would be resisted. So what we do is we fail at our job. We fail at raising our children to become better than us. Actually, no. Let me put it that way, in a different way. We want our children to become better than us in knowledge of science, in creating television, in innovating new technology. But when it comes to better character, we don't teach them that part. We teach them mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, nursing, medical school, physical therapy, massage, uh, teaching. We we basically give them everything that we had and make them better than us. Now we have better airplanes, we have better cars, we have better food. Not better food actually. We have better computers, better cell phone, better camera, better microphone. mm, You name it. Except for one thing, we forgot to train them to become better at better character, better godly life. Like we forgot that part. And so if we look at now, you see all those. You know what's interesting? Every time you see a place where people reject God, there's always destruction. France, during the French Revolution from 1793 to 1799, they rejected God and they upholded a woman as the deity of reason, and they worshipped her as a country. First time in the world history, a country full of smart, intelligent people and fine people rejected God and upheld the woman as their God, God of reason. What happened next? Bloodshed, catastrophe. That's what happens. You see, now look at California. They're like, we want to ban the Bible. We want to ban anything religious, especially the Bible. We want to ban the Bible. We don't want God in our state. We this and that. We hate God, whatever. Now, guess what? Fire. Fire. They want to uphold homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism, and everything else that is connected to that to the alphabet. What happens now? Look, so you don't want God to be there with you? Fine, he's gonna get away. But when he goes away, he also goes with his protection. And now you're not protected from Satan. I don't think this is happening by mistake. This is Satan taking his time to just destroy it as much as he can. That's how it is. Look at the Jews back in AD 31. They rejected Jesus Christ, right? Because they don't want him. They said they preferred a murderer, Barabbas. Well, what happened? They got what they wanted. AD 70, destruction of Jerusalem. bloodshed, bloodshed. And so right here, same for us. We have all this technology, yet we have a bunch of mass shooting. Why? Because we failed to train our children to become better in character. Don't hate me for that. That's the truth. It's okay. Let's move on. Because if I start, I'm probably gonna start preaching. It is the most. It is the most. And you know what's interesting? When you look at most of these bad actions going on right now, we say, "Oh, look at all these men um, doing nasty things." Well, most of these men were raised by single mothers. So the question is, did the mothers do the job right? Oh no, they didn't. Know why? Because they were saying they believed in that I can do better than a man. I don't need a man. It is the most difficult matter to unlearn the habits which have been indulged through life. The demon of intemperance is of a giant strength and is not easily conquered. But if parents begin the crusade against it at their own firesides, in their own families, in the principles they teach their children from very infancy, meaning while they are still breastfeeding, then they may hope for success. It will pay you, mothers, to use the precious hours which are given you by God in forming the characters of your children and in teaching them to adhere strictly to the principles of temperance in eating and drinking. There is not much I can say about that part. A sacred trust is committed to parents um, to guard the physical and moral constitution of their children so that the nervous system may be well balanced and the soul not endangered. Fathers and mothers should understand the laws of life that they may not, through ignorance, allow wrong tendencies to develop in their children. The diet affects both physical and moral health. How carefully then should mothers study to supply the table with the most simple, healthful food in order that the digestive organs may not be weakened, the nerves unbalanced, or the instruction which they give their children counteracted. So, what do you put on the table affects you physically and mentally, actually, healthfully. I know people that at work always talking about, oh, if you eat more chicken or more meat, you would get more protein. And I tell them, you know what? I don't eat any meat, but I have more protein than you do. That's what I'm talking about. People don't. We have so much information, yet people are becoming less knowledgeable. They know how to build cars. They know how to build computers. They know how to build um, cell phones and laptops and all that. They know how to take care of their car. They know how to take care of their computer, their cell phone, their house, and everything. But one thing, they don't know how to take care of their bodies. They fuel their bodies with anything. That's life. Shouldn't be that way, but it shouldn't be that way, but that's how it is. They fuel their body with anything. Anything. And then they tell me that they are stronger. I'm like, oh, actually you're not. Because I understand how it works. And when I try to explain it to them, of course, it doesn't sound good to them. And the reason is because they've been brought up with the notion of if you need protein, you have to eat meat. You don't need to eat meat to get protein. You can eat beans. avocado, peanut butter or peanuts, asparagus, broccoli, rice. I mean, what else do you need? You get protein in any plant based food. Satan sees that he cannot have so great power over mind when the appetite is kept under control as when it is indulged, and he is constantly working to lead men to indulge. Under the influence of unhealthful food, the conscience becomes stupefied, the mind is darkened, and its susceptibility to impressions is impaired. But the guilt of the transgressor is not lessened because the conscience had been violated till it had become insensible. So you will never feel bad until something bad happens to you, basically. And even when something bad happens to you, you still do it, like any of us do. Like any of us do. Since a healthy state of mind depends upon the normal condition of the vital force, what care should be exercised that neither stimulants nor narcotics be used? Yet we see that a large number of those who profess to be Christians are using tobacco. Oh yeah, yeah. That's even worse. Now, if it wasn't bad enough to be eating unhealthful food, now try using tobacco as a Christian. Christian. That's sad. That is sad. And and that's what and I want to not believe it, but I've seen it myself. I've seen it myself. I've seen people that call themselves Christian, and the moment they give you a ride, you wonder if you entered into a burning house. It smells like smoke in the car. I've seen it myself, so I can't really disagree with that at all. That's why people like to say, "Oh, I'm a Christian." You know why they say that? Because when you say you're a Christian, people cannot say anything wrong about you. So they say, "Oh, I'm a Christian. Don't judge me." So basically, I'm gonna keep on the name Christian, but I'm gonna live a life of the devil, and because I call myself a Christian, you can't tell me anything. But you know what? I actually read that in one time in Isaiah chapter 4. Yes, Isaiah chapter 3 ends with God pronouncing a judgment upon the daughters of Zion. Isaiah chapter 4 begins with, "And in those days shall 7 women take hold of one man, and shall say, We will wear our own apparel, we will eat our own food, but let us be called by your name to take away our reproach." Go look it up. Most Christian they use the label Christian because they wanna do what they wanna do instead of what Jesus Christ wants them to do. And they are given the name bad reputation. Actually, calling yourself a Christian and living like the devil is also breaking the third commandment, which is, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not leave on guiltless anyone who takes his name in vain." You want to bear the name of Christ, which is also God, then you have to live up to the name. Again, that's for the Christian, not for the worldlings. If there are worldling listening as well, and they want to become a Christian, then they should learn that part as well. Yes, the third commandment says that. Mm, I know some would have some wrong Bibles out there that says otherwise. No, the third commandment says, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain." It also works with not saying, "Oh my God," "Oh my gosh," and God with the D word, Holy S. All of these are names that you taking God's name in vain. Not just that, you associate God with bad things as well, like the Holy S. I'm like, what? Or the garden. I'm like, hold on, what? Try to take somebody else's name and see how they feel about it. That's exactly how God feels about it too. They deplore the evils of intemperance, yet while speaking against the use of liquors, these very men's sentiment will reject the juice of tobacco. There must be there must be a change of sentiment with reference to tobacco using before the root or of the evil will be reached. We press the subject still closer. Huh. That was just liquors and tobacco? Think about this. Tea and coffee. Oh, tea and now how many of you drink tea all the time? Raise your hand. I don't. Or how many of you drink coffee all the time? Raise your hand. Guess what? I don't either. Actually, I hate coffee. I can't even the smell repels me. Like I just don't know how people actually drink coffee. And that thing stinks. Guess what? They are the same like liquors and tobacco. Have you ever noticed that you have to keep drinking coffee over and over and over to stay awake? How about this? When you get up in the morning, drink a glass of water. And like that, you're gonna stay awake. Think about it. Tea and coffee are fostering the appetite for stronger stimulant because why? They start from tea and coffee in the morning, but like one guy said to me today, man, I need to drink my monster because I'm falling asleep. I'm like, it's it's not gonna help you anyways. And then we come still closer home to the preparation of the food and ask, is temperance practiced in all things? Are the reforms which are essential to health and happiness carried out here? Every true Christian will have control of his appetites and passions. Unless he is free from the bondage of appetite, he cannot be a true, obedient servant of Christ. The indulgence of appetite and passion bloods the effect of truth upon the heart. It is impossible for the spirit and power of the truth to sanctify a man, soul, body, and spirit when he is controlled by sensual desires. We need to do a better job as a Christian. We need to do a better job when it comes to our appetite because for sure we are lacking that part. We are lacking. We are intemperate. Anyways, I'm not gonna keep you guys longer. Today was September 24th, Thursday, 2020. I think I'll make a video tomorrow, and so I'm probably gonna see you tomorrow. If I don't see you tomorrow, I hope to see you again when Jesus Christ comes the second time. Until then, bye for now.